Good morning. Thank you for joining us today for the 42nd meeting of the Board of Lake County Commissioners. Would all those who are willing and able please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Grant us, O Lord, light to our understanding, prudence in our investigating, foresight in our planning, sincerity in our deliberating, the grace to follow truth in our judgment. Help us to be moved in our decision, neither by fear nor by self-interest, and to do our work faithfully. May we respect the authority vested in us, for thou art the source of all authority. And may we use in our directives for the common good and for thy honor and glory. Amen.
Amen.
Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Serino.
Here.
Commissioner Young.
Here.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Here. Okay, Commissioner Young is joining us by telephone today. So if anybody wishes to know where that disembodied voice is coming from. So let's see, we are now at our first public comment portion. Jason, do we have anything? Jason Boyd, County Administrator, indicating none. And we have no one in the audience requesting. So moving on to our agenda items, Madam Clerk.
In the Utilities Department, resolution decertifying unpaid sewer and water sums and administrative charges that were previously certified to the Lake County Auditor.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Discussion. Randy, did you want to explain this one?
Sure. These are every fall we certify unpaid bills, and these are a handful that were the properties transferred during that certification process. So the money will be collected through the transfer process through escrow.
Very good. Thank you. Further discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Serino.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution increasing appropriations and transferring cash within Lake County Department of Utilities Water Operating Fund, Project Fund 595, Homewood Drive Waterline Improvement Project 441W, a joint OPWC project with the City of Wickliffe.
Move
to adopt.
A second.
Discussion. Randy, did you want to mention this and maybe the next couple? They look like infrastructure projects.
Yeah, these are mostly part of the capital improvement plan, where we are, on this particular one, we are teaming up with the City of Wickliffe. We try to do that with the cities when they're doing a road improvement or sanitary sewer improvement where we have the water line. We do a joint project so we're not tearing up the street more than once, and we're able to share in that in the grant and the loans that way. And then the other ones are other capital improvement projects where we're transferring money so we can award contracts and that sort of thing.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Further discussion? None being heard.
Mr. President?
Oh, sir. Commissioner Young.
I'm having some difficulty hearing the words of the folks that are speaking away from the commissioners section there. I couldn't quite make out. I think that was Randy speaking.
It was the discussion. Randy, did you want to just...
I couldn't quite make out some of what he was saying. I got the general idea, but if there's anything you can do to tweak it somewhat easily, I would appreciate it. If not, I'm getting 95% of it. Go right ahead.
Hang on hold on a second. I suppose muting it will keep our tech from not having a nervous breakdown while I'm moving this thing. Okay, Ron, give me a quick talk here. Say hello.
Hello.
Okay, now, Randy, can you just briefly go back over that and see if Ron can hear you better now? I got the microphone pointing up towards the in-house speakers.
Sure, yeah. The resolution number 2 is a joint project with the City of Wickliffe, where we oftentimes pair with the cities when they're doing an infrastructure project. They might be replacing the pavement or their sanitary sewers or storm sewers, and we find it's very convenient for us to partner with them and replace the water line when those projects go. So that's what this project is, and then the next couple are transferring funds for other capital improvement projects so we can award contracts either to consultants to design it or to the contractor to actually build it.
Excellent. Thank you, Randy. Ron, was that better? Could you hear better that way?
I did hear better. Thank you.
Excellent. Teamwork. Okay, if there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution increasing appropriations and transferring cash within Lake County Department of Utilities Water Operating Fund and Project Fund 595, Som Center Waterline Replacement under I-90 Project 424W.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Discussion? And Randy, it's kind of unique that going on, well, I shouldn't say unique, but going on to Interstate 90, there'll be no disruption of, there's going to be directional boring, I'm assuming. And
Yeah, that's correct. It'll be bored underneath the freeway.
very good. If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution transferring appropriations and increasing appropriations in Lake County Department of Utilities Water and Sewer Operating Funds.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes. Commissioner
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution accepting a 3-year maintenance bond in the amount of $5,677.98 for 5995 Northridge Road Sanitary Sewer Extension Job Number 20-20 in Madison Township.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution rejecting all bids received on September 30th, 2020, approving revised estimate in the amount of $775,300 and authorizing re-advertising for bids for gas collection control system improvements for the Lake County Solid Waste Facility Project Number 429L and advertising for bids for the same, bid opening November 25th, 2020.
Could you read that again? No, I'm just kidding.
The whole thing.
Whole thing. Move to adopt.
Second.
Discussion. Randy, you want to give us some background?
Sure, this is part of our expansion at our solid waste facility, and we had put it out for bids a couple of months ago and did not get a bid within the engineer's estimate, so we made some modifications, talked with the bidders, and now we're going to re-advertise and hopefully get some good numbers with that.
And just to confirm, the engineer's estimate was $535,000.
I don't have that in front of
Oh,
me.
I'm
but
terribly sorry. Okay.
I'm sure that's right. If that's-
Based on the legal notice that I have before me, I'm just, for the
okay.
interest of those observing. Okay, so we're doing a redo, and we're not cutting any corners. We're just trying to better define the project in order to get more responsive bids, more consistent with our engineer's estimate.
Exactly.
Very good. If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution authorizing execution of a sanitary sewer billing service agreement between the Board of Lake County Commissioners and the City of Willowick for the Lake County Department of Utilities.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Discussion. Randy, I'm assuming this is that memorialization effort we were talking about?
Exactly.
Okay, so we're just formalizing the process. We've been sort of doing this on a handshake for quite some time. This is, as legal would say, getting it in writing.
Correct.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
In the Commissioner's Office, resolution establishing Christmas Eve, December 24th, 2020, as a paid holiday for all employees under the hiring authority of the Lake County Board of Commissioners.
Move to adopt.
Move to adopt. Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution establishing the Lake County employee's share of the monthly premium for medical and dental insurance coverage effective January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021.
Move to adopt.
Move to adopt. Second.
Okay, regularly moved and seconded. That little bit of a delay is getting you there, isn't it, Ron? We have Joel DeMaro with us. Joel, would you, for the benefit of those viewing, give us the background on this, please?
Sure. Absolutely. Good morning, Commissioners. So the rates before you today, this is both for this resolution and the next one, represent a 2% increase over our 2020 costs for medical and prescription, and actually represent a reduction in our dental premiums. I wanted to give you guys a couple of facts and details as to why I think we've been able to maintain such low increases year over year. The biggest reason I believe is we maintain to be a self-funded insurance program. I had our consulting group look on average, and their fully insured business, they're seeing 12 to 20% increases, and on their self-funded business, they're looking at between 4.5% and 10%. So we're even lower than the average of their book of business. I wanted to give kudos to all the employees who are on our health insurance program. Everyone has a piece and a part of keeping our premiums low. Just this year, we had 75% attendance at our annual health fairs. So that shows that the employees are committed to doing what's right and making healthy decisions as far as that goes. Strong relationships with our regional healthcare providers. Doing what I've been doing for the last 5 years, I think I have the ability to pick the phone up and call those providers if we're having issues and kind of work through those issues with employees, and oftentimes that helps the program significantly. My staff, they do a great job advocating for the employees when they're facing issues with their health insurance that an average employee may not know the lingo or who to call. They kind of step in and help them through that process. And then finally, which has been important over the last few years, is utilizing technology. We introduced a teledoc function in our program 2 years ago, and we're seeing a 63% utilization on that. And how that helps overall costs is that prevents employees from having to go to the emergency room and the urgent care. So we're saving hundreds or thousands of dollars every time someone uses that function versus going in person. So I think all those things together kind of lead to those relatively low rate increases as far as industry standards go.
Mr. President, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Joe, one of the only positive, or maybe one of the few positive things coming out of this COVID crisis is the sort of the step up in use and recognition of telemedicine. Just tell us a little bit about, for the providers that we are contracting with and that we utilize, are you familiar with what their plans are, what their roles are? And a lot of coverage has been reduced or eliminated for telemedicine since the beginning here. And I happen to think that telemedicine is a great way to improve access, and particularly when people don't want to go out. So tell us what you know about that.
Sure, absolutely. So we contract directly with a provider. It's not through Medical Mutual or a TPA, so that really gives us the control as to say what's covered, what's not covered, and those sorts of things. I'll just use a personal experience I had this year in the June or July. Started to feel a little under the weather. Instead of coming into work or going out to get an appointment, I used the telemed. Obviously the doctor went through the list and so on and so forth, diagnosed me with a sinus infection, was able to get what I needed without, jeopardizing others in the process. So I think there's been a lot of people that have used that as a comfort factor to decide whether they needed to seek further medical attention. Because without that function, I would have had to go to the doctor.
Right, but what can we do, I guess? I don't know what the utilization is like. Maybe that would be good to know sometime soon. But, what can we do to encourage more of that? Because, from a worker standpoint, obviously for their family members, it's not a productivity issue for us here. But, just kind of looking at productivity and time off of work and that sort of thing. If they don't have to go wait for an appointment, take a couple days off, and wait home, and we obviously don't want people coming in that are not feeling well. But it would be great to look at how we can encourage greater use of telemedicine.
Sure. So today what we do, so they actually they email, mail, and then during open enrollment, they reach out. So they send mail right to the house. So even if the employee is not the one in the household who traditionally makes healthcare decisions, their spouse, if they're on the plan, will get that information as well. So they're doing that now, but I definitely can talk with the vendor and see, how we can expand that more. Because I agree with you. I think telemedicine, one, is the direction that a lot of healthcare is going, and two, it's a great benefit for the employee.
Well, and I think too that because people are still reluctant to go into either the ER or to go to the doctor's office because they're afraid of getting infected, that their health may suffer, and that has impacts on our utilization
Absolutely.
Here. So we think very selfishly we should also look at that as well as caring about the health of our people.
Absolutely.
We want to make sure that we can keep our costs managed. Thank you.
And while you're there, that also helps with the excused absences, so we don't have any driving force that has a employee going to an emergency room or an urgent care just to basically make sure that they are in fact excused. One other thing that I think is worth mentioning, although we are self-insured, we do have stop-loss coverage, so that although we're taking on more risk doing this, we do have a stop-loss. Did you want to explain
Correct.
that?
Yeah, our current stop loss premium threshold is $300,000 per claimant per year. We're doing our stop loss marketing and research now to see what our rate will be next year. We've been talking about increasing the threshold a little bit this year, so we'll see as the next, probably by the end of November, what the recommendation will be as far as that goes. But we self-insure up to $300 now, and then after that we do purchase a insurance to cover us from any catastrophic claims.
Very good.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
real quickly, Mr. President, if
Sir.
I could.
Yes, sir.
I've been going through quite a bit of medical examination here recently, and every now and then when I have to use a new doctor, in fact, it's probably almost 50% of the time now, the initial evaluation is handled strictly via the phone. And I was thinking about that a little bit, just considering that our homes have really become huge communication hubs. There's a lot of capacity there. So Commissioner Serino's points about both employee health and our controlling our costs are well taken. I think that there's probably a substantial portion of the medical care that is provided to folks that could be just as efficiently, if not more efficiently, handled while people are sitting comfortably at home and in the comfort of their study or whatever, and ready to speak to a doctor.
Well said.
Great.
Thank you, Joel. Any further discussion?
No.
Moving on, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Serino.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution establishing the monthly premiums for medical and dental insurance coverage for sub-government entities participating in the county employee health plans effective January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021.
So moved. Move for adoption, sorry.
A second.
Collect myself here. Thank you. Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Serino.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution authorizing execution of a professional services agreement between the Lake County Board of Commissioners and Burgess and Nyepel to perform design services for HVAC replacement at county buildings in an amount not to exceed $180,740.
Move to adopt.
To adopt.
I'll second it.
Discussion. County Administrator Jason Boyd.
Good morning, Commissioners. Congratulations, Commissioners.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
This resolution, as well as the resolutions 12 and 13, all tied together. The resolution number 11 is a resolution to, utilize Burgess and Nyepel and their mechanical engineering services to kind of take us to the finish line for upgrades to a vast majority of our heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems through almost all of our buildings with the exception of the courthouse. This project has been contemplated for a number of years under our Buildings and Grounds Department with the emphasis on the need to replace this capital, the increased importance of air quality and safety. We felt that this was the time. So what BNN, the contract is a not to exceed to complete the design services for 4 facilities, which would be the old administration building, the Nolan building, the county jail, and the EOC facility. Resolutions 12 and 13 are actual contracts through state procurement or other procurement means to actually get the vendors on the ground and start the work as soon as possible. So Resolution 12 and 13 are similar in nature, just separate vendors.
Further discussion?
None.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Serino.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution authorizing execution of a contract with Carrier procured through Sourcewell on behalf of the Lake County Department of Buildings and Grounds for the replacement of air handlers in the old administration building in an amount not to exceed $821,000.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Discussion, other than the fact that Carrier just kind of slid right into procured, didn't it?
It did.
If there's no discussion, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution authorizing execution of a contract with Train US Incorporated procured through Omnia Partners on behalf of the Lake County Department of Buildings and Grounds for the replacement of air handlers in the Lake County Jail and Nolan Building in an amount not to exceed $1,126,220.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Discussion, none being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
In the Finance Department, resolution approving payment of bills as listed on the Commissioner's Approval Journal in the amount of $1,235,616.34.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Discussion, none being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution approving purchase orders as listed on the Commissioner's Purchase Order Approval Journal in the amount of $344,955.90.
Move to adopt.
Move to adopt.
I'll second.
Discussion, none being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution increasing appropriations for various non-general fund accounts.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Discussion, none being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution transferring cash and appropriations within various general and non-general fund accounts.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Discussion, none being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes. All right, this moves us to our departmental reports portion of our meeting. Randy, Utilities.
Thank you, Commissioner. Just to let you know, we are wrapping up our annual rules and regs update. We'll be submitting it to the prosecutor's office probably next week for review, and then to the commissioners for resolution to modify a few items in our rules and regulations.
Very good. Just further questions for Randy?
No.
Very good. Thank you, sir. County Administrator Jason Boyd, who's getting his steps in today. You're social distancing times 20, apparently.
Yeah. Just our kind of my weekly update on the business loan grant program. We're over 90 transactions to date. A little less than $100,000 left on the program, which is a good thing in my opinion. It's based on the need and the success of the program. We do have a couple loans in the queue that our team is currently looking at. I would imagine the program probably finishing up in the next couple weeks based on our expenditure rate or our disbursement rate thus far. So that's going well. We have about 98 transactions, loans and or grants, with approximately 50 of them being women or minority-owned businesses. Secondly, I just want to say congratulations to the Board of Elections for the work that they've performed over the past, well, probably since the summer. An attaboy goes out to all those folks down there under Director McDonald and Deputy Director Claire, all their seasonals and part-timers. Just a heck of a job. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank some of the other departments, B&G, the cleanliness of the facility, telecommunications, IT. It was really a team effort, and I think Lake County should be proud on how things went downstairs.
Mr. President.
Sir.
Jason, I would like to add to your shout out to the BOE. I had a chance to compare two other counties, and not from a quality standpoint, but from an ease of entry and speed of time to vote. And not only at the early voting at the various boards, but our folks just did an outstanding job here. And you know, it was, people were in and out very quickly. I think the new building, and kudos to you for helping to design that large lobby area in anticipation of the voting volume every 4 years, because without that big area outside of the BOE's offices, it would have been very tight, and the lines would have been longer, and with distancing, they would have been, you know, out to Fairport Harbor. So that would not have been conducive. And so our folks did a great job, and the new facility made a big difference, I think.
And Jason, while you're there, I'm going to continue patting you on the back. I'm going to echo and amplify what Commissioner Serino just said. When we started that project, I know it was before we took office, but we brought it into reality during our time. I know an awful lot of focus went into that lobby area. And BOE, Board of Elections, of which our director just entered the room. We're in the process of complimenting your crew, but it's going to be one of those cascade compliment things. So stand by to get some praise coming your way.
Okay.
Jason, you took that challenge very seriously. We asked for a lot of refinements in that very early on. Although we could not have contemplated a pandemic, we were discussing what do we do if there's large volumes. We gave the Board of Elections tools to work with. You were one of the lead people. Our utilities department, I have to give them credit for such active participation and oversight. It was a true team effort. And our Board of Elections, they took up those resources and they employed them with great effect. So high praise goes out to the crew and to our Board of Elections.
Now, I think, and the directors here as well, I remember meeting with Ross and Jan probably 3 years ago on what does elections look like in the future, and they indicated it'd be great if we had some elbow room. Probably could have used some more, not knowing a pandemic was going to occur. But yeah, all in all, I think, you know, the design proved worth its weight this year. Hopefully we don't have the same issues down the road with the pandemic. But yeah, that design process was truly a team effort. That was not my idea. That was everybody's idea. So I appreciate the comments.
Understood. You were definitely lead dog on that. You represented the interests of this Board of Commissioners with great fidelity and effectiveness. That means a great deal to us personally, so that's high praise, and you worked extremely well with everybody involved. And as long as we're on the subject of elections, Ross, we're talking about Board of Elections, so now's the perfect time to come in under the administrator's discussion.
Tell us how you think the day
Your
went.
timing's perfect here.
Well, thank you. I really don't have any prepared
And you
remarks.
look about 15 pounds lighter, does it?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I want to echo kind of this discussion by saying thank you to all the departments. I want to thank the employees of this building. I mean, in a lot of ways, they were displaced from their normal lives of being an employee. I know the utility billing on the first floor, we kind of overtook the break room area there for our early vote poll workers, but the cooperation of Lake County and its agencies was incredible, and it's very promising to see that. And it goes to show that when Americans work together, you can overcome a lot. And I hope that this can be an example to cast outward into the rest of this nation, to show the cooperation at the local level of working together. I'm thankful for Ohio's election laws that allowed us to begin processing and scanning absentee ballots as soon as they arrived. All told, with the 50,000 some absentee ballots in Lake County, that's about an 18-hour process of just physically scanning the ballots. That does not account for the time involved of packaging them and sending them out and then receiving them back onto the voter registration record, which that process involves a legal review of the identification and the signature. So cooperation was at an all-time high. We thank all the departments for their assistance in this election. We could not have gotten that early voting process done. As you know, we had over 31,000 individuals come through this building in a 29-day period. Closer to 32,000, in fact, when you bring in the provisional voters who had to vote a provisional ballot instead of on the voting machine. We thank the Mr. Colson's office for the legal assistance on a couple questions that we had throughout the process. They will continue to advise us as we wrap up the election. There are still votes to count in Lake County, of course. Those would be those validly submitted absentee ballots that had the postmark of November 2nd. We can receive them all the way up until November 13th. That'll be the provisional ballots that we will count in to the official results. Now, in my opinion, will any races change in Lake County? No, I don't think so. But we're monitoring one. We're monitoring the 60th district, certainly, just to see, we want to see it all the way through to the end because we've worked too hard to just stop right now. So, again, thank you. The design process has really shown its way through. That when we met early with the commissioners and Jason Boyd, when we said, look, we need this extra space for early voting, we never imagined that we'd see 31,000 voters come through. But with our putting a lot of heads together, the fact that we could help people queue up underneath the tent out on the sidewalk and all the way down Main Street at times, this operation was able to be successful because of teamwork and cooperation. So with that said, I'll take any questions at this point if we have any.
I just want to compliment you. Again, the programming and utilization of space, making sure the exterior of the building would lend itself to being able to put up tents. To be able, we don't know what kind of, it's Northeast Ohio.
Yeah.
You could have sunshine, rain, snow, everything, sometimes even in the same day.
Yeah.
That was a good call, and again, programming and use of space, the fact that even when we lost key elements of the old building because of a water damage issue, repurposing sections of this building, the new building, came in very handy for you. Did you want to comment on how that helped with training?
Being able to come up here, as the commissioner's office knows, we were training poll workers up on the 5th floor here. So we're appreciative of that. We had to get creative with our returning workers, so we developed an online poll worker training curriculum this year. So we filmed a bunch of videos with the assistance of Lakeland Community College. We were able to actually edit and produce those videos in-house using a laptop provided by Lakeland that contained video editing software. So Lakeland also helped us out with creating the plexiglass barriers that our early vote poll workers sat behind. I'm sure you all saw the Avery Dennison donation that came through, and they decided to expand that out to other counties in Northeast Ohio. So we had private sector support, we had public sector cooperation, and we really are thankful because, again, without all of those key relationships, we could not have been as successful as we were. It's going to be one that I'll always remember, no doubt. And it happened,
as he says,
sort
with a
of
twinkle in his eye.
Yeah, early on in my career in elections, but I don't think we'll ever see anything like this one again. I hope not.
Agreed. Commissioner Young, Commissioner Serino?
I just would echo what John said, but also make sure that you share our congratulations and appreciation to all of your employees.
Absolutely.
In the BOE. As you said, everybody jumped in and helped and performed their jobs well. I didn't hear one complaint from any voter about how they were treated, how they were. People complain about having to wait, but that's understandable.
Yeah.
And even that wasn't that bad in most places I was at. So please convey that to all of your employees.
Absolutely. And you, Mr. Gills, we thank the engineer's office as well because you came through with some help in the election. So thank you very much for that as well.
Well, thank you. You guys did a great job. We're particularly happy at the engineer's office because we put a can outside of our restrooms and a sign up charging a quarter for the employees that were coming in from other floors, and I doubled my budget. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
That's just like him, isn't it?
Very creative, yes, absolutely. And I'm hoping that goes back to your employees then, right? And increases in salary, right?
Mr.
Very
President.
good.
Commissioner Young, sir.
Yeah, I'd like to say a few words too about the election. As a state legislator, I always heard great things about my county. The way people work together up here, the low incidence of crime, the safety of our schools, the roads being well kept. I heard basically nothing but good reports. But I didn't see it firsthand every day. But now that I'm a commissioner, I see it. And it's really surprising. And this election, I shouldn't say it's terribly surprising, I expected it, but nonetheless, it's refreshing. And the election really highlights that. and I have, as you know, I have a firsthand view of the election. One of my daughters has worked on the elections for the last, 17 years or so. She must put in, it's not unusual to see her putting in a 15-hour, 16-hour, even 17-hour day. That's day. And in some cases, that includes Saturdays and Sundays. So the price that they paid is amazing. And she wasn't complaining. And I know her. She's not afraid to complain, at least not to me. At any rate, I think she's representative of the team there. I think they pulled together, realizing the importance of the task, and just make it happen. And again, I think that symbolizes Lake County as well. It's endemic of Lake County. Just people pulling together, doing what has to be done for the people they serve. And that is so honorable. And I'm just very proud to be a part of that.
Well
Thank
said.
you.
Well said.
Yep.
And Ross, I'll just continue the conversation as long as we're casting praise here. A lot of the examples and the test configurations, we observed a lot of different changes and finding out what's going to be the best practice. It was really comforting to see those actually employed out in the field. A number of the polling places, we were just so used to always being the way that they were. You guys changed it up and made a best use of facilities. Did you want to comment about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We did have to rethink our layout because where it was possible, we wanted to have sort of a circular traffic flow where you're going in one door and you're exiting out a separate door, so that we didn't have that, against the grain traffic as people were trying to come and go. Thankfully, we sent out a survey in July asking buildings if we could set up earlier. And many of our churches throughout the county agreed to do this, so we thank them for that. Many of our public buildings we were able to get in early, and that was key. Typically, setting up our locations, that occurs all on Monday. 56 buildings, we have crews somewhere in the range of 16 to 20 individuals, and they're all going out early in the morning on Monday, setting up the buildings. We knew that wasn't going to be a possibility this year. So going into Monday morning, we already had 29 locations set up. But it was key that we surveyed these places ahead of time and figured out the precise moment when we could get in and set up. We had to lay down floor, social distance markers on the floor. We had to spread out the machines. In a couple cases, we could not have as many voting machines in the building that we would usually have. But thankfully, when we subtracted out the number of early voters and absentee voters, and then we ran our equation, which is one voting machine for every 175 registered voters, we were still hitting an equation like one voting machine for every 88 voters. So, and that was after you certainly had to subtract out that absentee number. But so we still had ample number of voting machines. And I want to praise our poll workers too. I mean, they're really the front line of voting on Election Day. They're the face of this operation on Election Day. Under great and extraordinary circumstances, they turned out and they supported the election on Election Day. So Election Day in many ways was the last day to vote, but it was a critical day of voting and really decided a lot of the outcomes. So thank you to all the polling locations and poll workers for allowing us to get in there early, and actually for the poll workers for showing up on Election Day.
And looking to the future, I know as we were coming into this election, we're looking at new equipment.
Yes, sir.
I know from business, we do a lot of work in the field, so having equipment already staged in deployable containers, I know that's one of the things you're looking at.
Yep.
Want to take a minute and talk about that?
Yeah, we're evaluating voting machines right now. That's a board decision, of course, with recommendation from myself and the deputy director, Claire. There is a unit that is sort of all self-contained that you would just wheel into a polling location, and it has 4 voting machines that are on hinges that you pull out, and it's a touch screen machine. So I think if I had to predict the new wave of voting machines in Lake County will have a touch screen element to that. There are touchscreen machines that are simply a ballot marking device where you make your selections on a screen and then it kicks out a paper ballot that is not like the paper ballot that you see as an absentee voter. It's more of a brochure style or brochure sized paper ballot, but it gives that voter the opportunity to actually tangibly hold something and review their choices. Then they would walk that over to a precinct scanner, and that's where tabulation would occur. There's also units out there that we're looking at that are really very much like the machine we have now, but just modernized. They use it maybe like a tablet interface, but the tabulation occurs like our current voting machine where you just hit submit and it calculates the votes that way. So central counting is very important as well. Central counting is the counting of absentee ballots at the Board of Elections, which, as you know, is occurring in other states as we speak. But we prefer a more robust central counter like the one that we've been running for the last 2 years. Some of you maybe have stopped by and seen how it operates. But in Lake County, we can get about 3,000 to 4,000 ballots scanned an hour. So that is a big part of the consideration, as well as the abilities of that vendor's central counting and how it works. So we hope to have more information toward the end of this year, possibly a decision, but I have to let the board weigh that out. We'll provide them the details. We'll also be analyzing how these new voting machines performed in other counties in Ohio. Many other counties have already adopted new equipment, so we'll be following up with those counties to see how their machines performed. Lake County tends to let the other counties experiment with new age equipment. We trailblaze in some areas, but when it comes to voting machine, we decided let's let some of these other counties work out the kinks and make our decision. We still have the funding all the way through, I believe, the end of June 2021, and certainly we're not going to let that money go to waste. We'll make a decision here very soon, but let us wrap up the official results here. We'll conduct an audit after the election just to show the work out. That'll be a hand count audit process where we'll take about 3% of the votes cast in this election and we'll hand count those. The board will draw precincts randomly, and once we reach that 3% threshold, then we'll hand count all of those precincts and show out our work.
For the benefit of those viewing, the funding that you mentioned is state funding that's in addition to the Lake County General Fund monies that are also going to be committed to that effort.
Yes, sir. Thankfully.
Indeed. Now, while we got you here, the live and in person, so we're hearing a lot of controversy nationally about ballots and this and that. I think it's fair to say that in the state of Ohio, we definitely have this good security, high degree of integrity, particularly here in Lake County. We take this very seriously, a tradition of integrity above all.
Yes, sir.
So in-person early voting, that we got locked down. If I could, because there's a lot of questions about the paper ballots. One of the questions is, well, how do we know the paper ballots are only being scanned once?
Right.
Can you give us some assurance how that is accomplished?
Yep. So in Lake County, after we scan a batch of paper ballots, absentee ballots, we'll scan, in a batch, there's between 1,200 and 1,300 ballots scanned. And that's done by a bipartisan team, keep in mind. One Democrat and one Republican. I happen to serve as one of those bipartisan teams, and I have a counterpart with me the entire time. After we've scanned a batch of 1,300, we do what's called real-time adjudication. Adjudication is a big word these days. Adjudication is when you have a voter who has marked the ballot, but the machine is unsure about its intent. Maybe they've colored in an oval very solidly, but they have a pen rest mark in a separate oval within that contest. The machine is so sensitive that it says, well, I'm not sure about this vote. We need human eyes to take a look at this. So when we review those ballots, a Democrat and Republican are coming to an agreement that this is the voter's intent for that particular contest. So after we adjudicate that ballot, we either remake the ballot, and if we have to reflect that voter's intent, or in some cases we have the ability to just kind of make that oval that was mistakenly marked by a pen, make that be covered, and so that the correct oval, the voter's intent, as agreed upon by the bipartisan team, is the ballot, or is the contest that's counted. So we do 1,200 to 1,300 ballots per batch. Immediately, those ballots that have been counted go into a box We then create reports that'll show exactly how many ballots are in that batch. We seal the box and we put a security seal on it. That is basically it's a sticker, but if it were to be removed, it has the word void written. The word void appeals. I don't know what the technical term for that sort of seal. It's like an evidence seal in a lot of ways. We record the security numbers as well, the security seals that are on top of that. So that's how we do that in Ohio. Those ballots are stored in our secure tabulation room. To get into that room, it requires key card access by one Democrat and one Republican at the exact same time. And shout out to the telecommunications department for having the capabilities to do that. That room is also, there's a camera fixated on the door. So if we ever had any concern about unauthorized access to that room, we could just roll the footage back and review it every time that room was accessed. So I think maybe second to the sheriff's office, we have one of the most secure processes in the county. So I don't know the rules in other states, so I'll reserve my comments on that. But at the same time, I have met a lot of election officials throughout the country. I've been fortunate enough to have a national certification, which required me to go to other states. As you know, we talk shop about how things are done in other states. And I have confidence in my fellow counterparts throughout this country. We realize what's tethered to a vote. There are so many things tethered to a vote. A veteran died to protect that vote. Someone, possibly died, working to expand the right to vote for other classes and other genders. So there is so much tethered to the right to vote and to each vote that I don't feel that there are concerns that should be levied against the vote counting process in other states. Again, if Lake County was not allowed to open ballots until Tuesday, there's a good chance that we'd still be counting here today as well.
Fair enough. And just to finish the thought real quick, and in Lake County, if you're going to get a paper absentee ballot, there is a process. Signatures have to match. There has to be some affirmative means of identification. It has to be requested. They're not automatically sent out.
Precisely.
And then when they're received back by Board of Elections, they can come either by mail, hand drop off, Board of Elections, hand drop off, the collection box outside the building. There's a full tracking history associated with everything. And then when that ballot's received in, the signatures are matched, the other identifying requirements are also checked off. There's an entire process.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
again, speaking only to Ohio and especially Lake County.
Speaking to Ohio, that everything you just stated is absolutely correct. You have to request to vote by mail. I apologize. You have to request, and in that request process, you have to list your date of birth, a form of identification, and your signature. And that signature is that point where we're verifying the identity on top of the social security number or the BMVID number. So that's just to get the ballot sent to you. To have it counted, you have to go through the same level of security there as well. The identification envelope is what carries that ballot home to the Board of Elections, and prior to opening that envelope, we're checking the same information: date of birth, the signature, and then the identification factor. At that point, we send that into the pile to be counted, and then that updates the voter's record to see that the Board of Elections received their ballot. So those at home who are using our website can see, okay, great, my ballot's been counted and received at this point.
Excellent. Commissioner Serino.
Yes, Mr. President, just have a couple questions. There's tons of disinformation out there, and some people actually believe if it's on the internet, it must be true. But in other states, I think there was reported yesterday in Philadelphia when they have these large rooms when they're doing either recounts or whatever they're doing post-election, that there were photographs of people wearing, candidate stuff while they were doing their job, counting and that sort of thing. I know that doesn't happen here in Lake County, but since you're involved and knowledgeable of what goes on in other states and so on, is that a policy that you think actually exists someplace to allow that sort of thing? I mean,
it strikes me as very odd if that was the case. We go through a lot of talking about checking your party beliefs at the door every morning. You know, that is one of the pillars of what we talk about. Is certainly we're all here by way of our political party, and that's how Ohio works. You have a board that is 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and then from there, the employment structure is set up the same way. A Democrat and a Republican working together on all the tasks. But that would be concerning if true, and highly unadvisable. Why would you allow that to happen? Someone brought up about the fact that they were putting up wallpaper over the windows or cardboard boxes over the windows while they were going through the counting process. And my hunch is that was to allow those workers to focus, to remain focused on what they're doing. It would be sort of nerve-wracking if you had a crowd of 200 people out here on the square banging on your windows and screaming and shouting while you're trying to do some job that is obviously critically important. I think it would be somewhat hard to remain focused in that sort of environment. So that's my response to the question about, well, why were they putting up things over the windows? But what I would do if in that situation was immediately get a live stream up into the office, though. Right. To give the people the right to see what's going on, because I do believe in that process.
And the bipartisan observation is
a thing that we do now.
It's a natural part of the process.
Absolutely.
It should be uniform everywhere.
Precisely. In Lake County on Election Day, and even up during the early voting process, but I'll talk about Election Day, we had an attorney that was representing the Ohio Republican Party, and we had an attorney here that was representing the Ohio Democratic Party. And both of them praised us on our transparency, professionalism, and just general courtesy that was extended to them. Anytime we were doing something that we actually thought they'd like to see, I would run over to them and say, hey, we're about to do this. Would you like to take a look on how this works? So my feeling is that that's probably happening in other states, but I don't know for sure. But that's how I'd respond to that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Appreciate the time, and thank you to Jason for teeing that up for us. So, Ross, much appreciated.
Yep.
And again, well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thanks.
Jason, do you have anything else you wanted to add? Very good. Ross, again, thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you. Take care.
Okay, moving on to our Commissioner Clerk.
Yes, I did want to mention that Lake County offices will be closed next Wednesday, November 11th, in observance of Veterans Day. And the next commissioners meeting is going to be on Thursday, November 12th at 10 a.m.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am. Legal.
Reports, Commissioner.
Thank you, sir. Okay, old business. Do you have any old business to come before the board? None. Moving on to new business. Do we have any new business to come before the board?
No, sir.
None. Very good. Okay, this brings us to our second public comment portion of our meeting. We have no one in the audience, and our county administrator is indicating we have no electronic requests for comment. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes. Well, thank you for joining us today. This meeting is adjourned.